Hi, hi guys. Saseni. It's been a while. Acha tuseme I disappeared on you, but I'm here. I am still around. Don't worry. We're going to finish this. I'm glad I've been able to come to this point to share this material with you. I promised I would, and I didn't want the week to end before I send it. No matter how challenging my week has been, but I really wanted to make time for this. So, the topic was supposed to be the realities and goodies of marriage, and I just want to share with you on two major things that I feel are both good and very challenging. Okay, so the first thing is vows. You know, people say for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and health, till death do us part. And I think these vows are very serious. Imagine somebody making a choice saying, "You are going to be my forever partner." I think that's a very, ni kitu kubwa mtu kukufanyia. And it's a goodie because you get to have forever companionship. That is what somebody is promising you. Imagine yourself at, I don't know if you're this kind of person who thinks about when you're 70 you'll still be together, and that is something that this person is promising you, and it's a good thing because even as people age you want to be with someone. The other thing you get out of this is support for a lot of things. If I promise that I will be with you for better, for worse, that means I'm going to be present in whatever situations you're going to go through. I'm going to be present, and that's awesome. The other thing you get is someone to come home to. I mean, when you open the door and there's someone, hata kama mmekosana, the person is still there. So that's nice. Yeah. And someone to do life with. Companionship, because life has so many seasons, and today you're okay, tomorrow you're not. Today you have a challenge at work. There's someone you can talk to. There's someone who cares enough to listen and help you get solution. Yeah. And there's someone who is your friend no matter what will be going on. There's someone who is determined to help you succeed. And I hope that's the deal you get also when you get married. There's someone, or there's a sense of belonging. And the one thing that I really appreciate is someone to do purpose with. And I know by now you've probably heard that marriage should have purpose. It's not just, oh, we love each other so much, we are so in love, let's do life together. Doing life together is not just about money, paying rent, having kids. There should be something greater. And I'm not talking about serving in church. I'm talking about something that the two of you can always do, whether you're in conflict or not. Of course, conflicts complicates things because it challenges teamwork. But if there is purpose for your marriage, I'm telling you, it's much easier, and actually it will last longer than if there was really nothing. Because if you get into marriage for just love's sake, as I will show you, at some point, love in marriage becomes a choice. It is something you decide to do. So you will not just get married out of love's sake. This romance in love thing is not consistent. That's what I would say. It's something you keep working on, something you want to contribute to when you get married. So kuna ka period kana kwanga hapo ka in love, lovey-dovey, very automatic, very hot, but inafikanga mahali hiyo, because you start conflicting, mnaanza kujuana, sometimes contempt develops. You start, sometimes even certain very wicked thoughts cross your mind, and you're like, I'm gonna do life with this person, eh? So you have to consciously decide to love them. So I was talking about purpose, doing life together. I remember this one time a friend of ours asked us to sit down with them to solve an issue that related to their parents. That day, that time I was pregnant and I was so emotional. I don't even remember what I was angry about. Nilikuwa nimekosewa. So we were in the vehicle, we went. I was still mad. We went because we had already agreed we were going to go. And this is something that we do. This is something we like to do together. Okay? Talking to people, counseling, helping them come up with solutions for their lives. And of course, sitting down with them. So we had already promised them we will go. So we were going to go. And we were both committed to it. So guess what? Tuliingia gari, tukaenda kaa tumenyamaziana. Kufika, me I burst out in tears. So we sat in the car. I cried for like 5 minutes. I didn't even talk about what I was angry about, but after that, I started laughing. I think it was a pregnancy. That was so funny. And we talked and we were like, okay, let's go. And we went and we talked to that couple and we came back smiling and we were happy because what we went to do is something bigger than our marriage. And whatever conflict we had, we knew we could solve it after that session. And that's what we did. So I'm telling you, having purpose, something that you value so much as an individual and as a couple, will really help you. Okay? So I want to talk to you about the realities. I've told you the good side of vows. What are the realities? I've talked about romance. At some point, love becomes a choice. And of course, I remember I also mentioned that happiness is something you bring to the table. Imagine if somebody was looking up to you to make them happy. It's such a big burden. So don't put that burden on someone else. Honestly, inafikanga mahali, you know so many negative traits about somebody, but you still have to choose to love them and to respect them. And if you don't do that, you will have a lot of conflict, you will hurt the other person, and you'll always find yourself in the wrong. Because if you develop contempt, for example, if you have a boss maybe who shouts or who does stuff that you don't like, at some point utahave kuamua you want the job so that you will stay, or by the way si lazima nikae hapa. And of course there's a place for that. I'm not saying you stomach everything. I'm saying getting out of love. There's falling in love, there's falling out of love. So you have to decide to love. And that is what the vow is about. To love the person, not to be in love with them. Please don't get married because you're in love with someone. Get married because you love them. I remember thinking earlier on, and let me just talk about seasons. Thinking earlier on, I think it was about 3 years, I saw that update on my Facebook profile. The way Facebook reminds you of what you have said in the past, yeah? What you posted. And I saw that in 2015, that was a record 3 years. 3 years, yeah. 2015, 3 years before we got married. A record 3 years. I was thinking about vows, and I remember saying, yes, I want someone who is, let's say, for example, you want someone who is tall, dark, and handsome. So, you get married, yeah? You are so in love with them, you really like the way they look, because obviously you should be physically attracted to the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. But imagine this, the person gets into an accident, maybe even in the engagement period, or shortly shortly after marriage, or 10 years into the marriage, they get into an accident, they become paralyzed, and they get into a period where they need constant attention and care. That's a season in life. Or not a season, maybe it's a forever default setting. What are you going to do? Are you going to run because now the guy is no longer tall? What if you are looking for a really handsome guy? Yeah? You get a handsome guy. Maybe you should get a handsome guy, someone who is handsome to you. Imagine they got into a fire and their face got burnt. So what are you going to do? One side of the face is burnt. Imagine me, one side of my face burnt. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to run? That's a reality, and it can happen. And I need you to think about that and realize Your marriage must survive that. Your commitment, your vow must stand. I've had situations where my spouse is in hospital, admitted, and it's not something I was looking forward to. It's not something you plan, but it's not something you can avoid. It will happen. And you go as far as getting specialists and all that. You need to develop stamina for these kind of things, because if you expect your spouse to stand like that with you, sometimes huwa tunafikiria what we can do for the other person, but we don't realize that if these things happened to us, we would be expecting them to stay. But wewe utaka ama utatoroka. There are women who, when their husbands lose their jobs, they start terrorizing them in the house just because the man is not bringing in money. Or you start disrespecting him and you treat him like he's nobody. Remind yourself your vow, okay? Remind yourself that you are supposed to keep your vow in changing seasons of life, in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse. And I want to talk about for better, for worse. And I think I've mentioned this before. Sometimes we get married to people who we had such a high expectation about. And maybe you go into marriage thinking that your husband is going to be like your dad. He won't be like your dad. He's going to be himself. So positive or negative traits that you saw in your father, don't expect them in your husband. They may have similar things, but your husband is your husband, your father is your father. They will never be the same person. So you need to give people a chance to grow, to become better, and it might take time. Now, listen, you signed up for forever. That's 70 years, 80 years, until your death, isn't it? Till death do you part. So the reality is, you need to contribute to the growth of the other person so that they become better. But you're not supposed to be controlling them, okay? You're not supposed to be controlling them. You're supposed to contribute to their life. Be a person who contributes, not just demands and demands and demands. And also for you, be a person who is open to listen, to understand what the other person needs. Because as we go through life, we may change a lot. We may go through depression. We may have career changes, and we get into leadership. Imagine if you got married to your husband when they were just maybe an accountant, let's say, for example, yeah, ama mtu wa biashara, maybe anauzanga duvet or something, okay? And then one day they become an MP. You have to change. You have to adjust. You have to grow with that person, because that's a very big shift. You need to work together, support them. You can also say no if you're not willing to enter that, but haiwezi kuwa unashikilia mtu au mimi siwezi adjust. You have to adjust, because these are the changing seasons in the person's life, and you need to try and understand whether this is their path of self-actualization. So if you hold on to your cards and you're like, no, I will not do that, we are not doing this, I did not sign up for this, you need to make up your mind that have a discussion about ambitions and goals. Decide early in advance what the future looks like. And that's why I keep saying, if you want to be president, even if it will never happen, even if you don't have an actual plan, but you have this thing in you that tells you it would be nice for you to be president, you can accomplish this, please say it before you get married. Let someone know that you have an interest in leadership and governance and politics. Let it not come as a surprise. These things affect families to a great extent. You may not know what you will become in the future, because we are always doing self-development, but work with your spouse. Let them know what you're thinking. Let them see the process of how you are becoming who you are becoming. And also, when you notice that your spouse is becoming a different person, go close to them. and start thinking and asking questions and participating, because acha nikwambie, if you decide utajifungia kwa box yako yenye mulikuwa na yeye akiwa anauza mitumba, ama alikuwa tu accountant, ama alikuwa assistant mahali, na yeye anataka kukuwa MP, you will have a lot of conflict. So the reality is, for better for worse, changing seasons of life, grow with your spouse. The other thing about vows is divorce, and this is a reality, and I want you to know that it is okay to walk away from a marriage that is destroying your life. For me, that's my big deal breaker. If this relationship we have, it's the same principle with friendships. Of course, friendships, there are other lighter reasons to part ways. But if a marriage is destroying your life, remember the example I gave on domestic violence, living with an armed robber in your home. That's a no, absolute no. There's no future in domestic violence. Hakuna, ni kifo. So, divorce is a reality. Please don't be one of those people who rushes to leave the home just because you have a conflict. Develop a mechanism, and I can give you an example of a mechanism. Talk to your spouse. Sit them down. Tell them, I need us to talk about this and about that. Listen. Listen to what they're saying. Listen. Try to understand. Express yourself. Try to explain in terms they can understand. If you feel like it's becoming hotter than it should be, take a break. Talk about it tomorrow. Okay? Or another time. If you feel it's not working, call somebody. You must have couples around you who can sit you down and have a serious conversation with. You should not isolate yourself. You should not operate alone. Have couples around you who constantly talk to you and you talk to them. It's up to you to build these family friendships. If you operate alone, you will die, and one day you will feel like you're the only one who is going through the challenge that is happening. You need to have companions in your marriage, okay? Of course, you don't go saying everything. You try to resolve the conflict first. Call somebody who has authority in your lives to come and speak to you guys and listen and try and talk to you guys. It's not always the other person who is in the wrong or who is not understanding. It could also be you. Then the last bit, find somebody who is in greater authority. Maybe your pastor, someone who cares about your marriage, okay? Call someone. After that, maybe you can go to your parents. Don't be that woman who calls their mom every time the husband does something. Please, uspe wazazi stress. Go to the parents. Then finally, make up your mind about what you want, because there's so much at stake in life. You cannot spend 70 years on something that is not resolvable, but find an amicable solution. If you decide to leave amicably. Sometimes it may not be possible. You may want to involve the authorities. Don't be afraid to protect your life. So, I want to go to the next thing, which is children. Children. Children are a gift from God, and I don't know, most people, let me not say everyone, most people desire to have children, little cutie, small people who are smiling at us for no good reason, and they make our lives just so amazing and so interesting. I can tell you that as a young mom, I've really enjoyed being a mom, and every day, of course, there's a challenge, but I just look at my son and I'm like, wow, this little person, when he's sleeping and he's smiling or he's tugging at me or he's daddy, it's just amazing. It makes the marriage have a new, different chapter. And of course, it's a bond for the marriage, and it's just awesome for me, I don't regret having a child. It's awesome. I can tell you that. And it's also a point of legacy. The what you leave behind. I look at my child and I'm like, I want to be better. I want to be a better person. I want to create a better environment. I want my home to be better for him. And it pushes you to do better, to be a better person. And that's what I would say about children. You and I, who are children, are still children to our parents if they are there. So that loving care, that opportunity to have that bond with another human being, even in that whole pregnancy process, the child being inside of you, I don't think I know anything that has that kind of experience in my life. It was brand new, it was awesome, and it was tough. But looking at my child right now, I feel proud, I feel blessed, and I'm grateful for my baby. Now, the realities. Okay, let's start with barrenness or infertility. Barrenness is inability to hold, I think, I'm not sure, barrenness and infertility, either inability to conceive or namkopoa tu. You have your spouse has sperms, you have your ovary is fine, your womb is fine, but you're not able to either conceive or hold. So some people experience miscarriages and it's painful, I can tell you. And I think that's one of the greatest fears I also had after conceiving. You just get some kind of tension, but you just trust the Lord because it is God who does everything. I mean, and I would look at myself and realize pregnancy gave me an opportunity to understand my identity being in God and not in my parents. Of course, there's a part of my parents that is about me, and God placed me in their lives for good reason. And but one of the things that I was really taught by pregnancy is that I am standing in God. That is where I came from. And even if one day my parents pass on, I am still secure in God. So that's something I learned through pregnancy. But I was talking about barrenness and infertility. It can happen that you and your spouse are not able to have children. There are so many pressures from society, from family, your parents. They can some even call you to a meeting and ask you why are you taking so long. I remember, someone told me you shouldn't take too long. Somebody even told me don't wait more than 6 months. Someone said don't wait more than 2 years. I mean, there are pressures from every side. Sometimes you cannot even discuss what is happening. I mean, some couples we know came to tell us that they were struggling with infertility and barrenness after we told them we were going to have a child. And you realize this thing, people live in shame thinking that it is their fault. It is not your fault that you cannot have children. Of course, there's a part of you that may regret if maybe you had an abortion or, I don't know, you either gave up your child for adoption or you left them somewhere like some mothers do. You may live in regret.